Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Nugwa Haruna. As you know, February is Black History Month in Canada. It's a time to reflect on the history and accomplishments of Black Canadians and how we can help to elevate the Black community in the future. When it comes to investing, there are many promising strides that have been made in recent years. But the reality is, there's still plenty of work needed to improve the financial prospects of Black Canadians. Consider a study by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives in 2021, which drew from Statistics Canada data. It found that Black seniors had average incomes 25% lower than white seniors, and that Black households contributed 40% less than white households did to registered retirement savings plans each year. These disparities can have a major impact on the financial well being of Black Canadians. That said, there are some signs that things are moving in the right direction. Recent surveys by TD found that Black Canadians are more likely to have a direct investing account than the general population. They're also much more likely to buy and sell investments using those accounts too. So, it seems like engagement with investing is gaining momentum, and that will hopefully help close the racial gap over time. Of course, there's still many unique challenges that Black Canadians may encounter that may discourage or complicate their investing journeys. So, we're going to discuss some of those issues and ways to help overcome them. Here with their perspectives are two DIY investors who have done just that in their own lives. Joining us are personal finance journalist Zandile Chiwanza and Paulina O'Keefe Anthony, a financial literacy program instructor with nonprofit Black Moms Connection. Thank you both for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here.
Zandale, let's start with you. What motivated you to become a personal finance journalist and explore the ways we behave with money?
When I moved to Canada in 2010, I was an international student coming all the way from Zimbabwe. And besides the culture shock and going through university on my own, I came here on my own. I was no family and I didn't really know anyone in the country. So I was trying to get familiar with the system, and tuition for international students is triple, quadruple what local students pay. So, unfortunately, I did have face a lot of financial challenges, and I struggled to pay for my education, my own bills, while just trying to figure out life. And in my final year of school, I was in a business journalism class, and my professor gave us a test on financial literacy in Canada, and I came last in the quiz, but there was a plot twist. The prize for the student wasn't the winner of the quiz, it was the loser. So I got gifted The Wealthy Barber by David Chilton, which is a popular personal Canadian personal finance book. And through that, I just started to read everything I could because I don't like coming last. And that's why I'm a journalist. I am very curious. And I found this community of people that were talking about personal finance. And I started to document my own story. And through that, people were reaching out to me saying that this was amazing. They had never seen anybody that looked like me that was talking about their personal finance, and it was extremely motivating. And so I started to write more and more about it and pursue it as a career. And through that work, I started to see that it wasn't just about financial literacy. There are other things that contribute to your overall financial wellness, which we'll be getting into later in the conversation.
I mean, a little bit of retail therapy never hurt, but you obviously want to make sure you're not handling and dealing with any conflict in your life using retail therapy. So, yeah, but thank you for sharing that. So, Paulina, let's bring you into the conversation. You're an artist by trade. So, how did you get involved with teaching financial literacy through Black Moms Connection?
Yeah, so I started kind of investing more seriously in 2020 when, during the pandemic, when the market crashed in March. I feel like a lot of people got into the market at that time. And just a little bit prior to that, I had a limited understanding of kind of investing. I was part of a group and had a few folks support me in kind of opening up my first direct investing account. I started diving in. I'm a person who, like, when I get hooked on something, I will just look for any like opportunity to learn and dig deeper into it. So courses, the internet, YouTube, whatever I could get my hands on to learn more and more and more about investing, and then I would go and practice it in my in my investment account. And so when I learned about the possibilities of investing, I was like, why doesn't everybody know this? And so I created a course. So I'm an artist, but I'm also an arts educator. So I have a really good background in like creating courses and teaching in a really kind of accessible way. So I just took that skill and applied it to what I learned about investing, and I created a little course on investing 101 just to get folks like who were anxious like me about getting into the market, understanding the very basics of what the market is, so that we would not be scared to kind of explore this new opportunity for making money. And then I was approached by Black Moms Connection about teaching some DIY investing as they put on their financial literacy program. And from there, that's just how it all kind of became what it is right now. And I'm still teaching with them as part of that course.
Right. Okay, so Zandile, you have a unique perspective on this issue as a financial educator certified in the trauma of money method, which looks at how traumatic experiences can help shape our financial habits. Can you explain some of the common traumas that may create obstacles to investing for the Black community?
Right. So essentially, with the trauma of money method, it's looking at ways that your relationship with money can be influenced. Um, we always hear about financial literacy, but really there are five other factors that influence your relationship with money, and a big one for the Black community is generational trauma. So you have money scripts that are being written over time, from the time you're born, from the time your parents were or guardians were having their own relationship with money, or our ancestors, how they had their own relationship with money, right? So what happens is, if you're not addressing some of these traumas, it can become at first a behavior, a habit, and then it can actually develop into a financial disorder. So for the Black community, again, it can look like, the barriers that we are facing when it comes to money, like the racial wealth gap, right? Like that is a systemic issue. It's not something that you or I have done with our money. It is the fact that we are seen in a different light when it comes to our money. Sometimes it also manifests as scarcity. So for the Black community, you hear people say, and it's not exclusive to the Black community, but I have heard in my work a lot of people say, you know, I don't want to invest because I'm going to lose all of my money. Um, I'm not familiar with that system. I'm just bad at money, so I don't want to invest, or I don't want to learn this about money. And that will actually skew your attitude towards your money, right? And I think in my own experience, I have faced a lot of scarcity, and that has impacted my overall relationship with money.
So I love how you mention how we may sometimes downplay the impact trauma can actually have on our decision making, be it personal, be it financial. And I've shared this story
Mhm.
in a previous webinar I had about, when I first started my investing journey. I lost almost all of the money I originally invested, and it got me paralyzed, and I didn't do anything else. I was almost like an ostrich stick that sticks their head in the sand and just does not move. And I know for me, what helped me
Mhm.
break through that was financial education, and then I eventually got more comfortable and more confident about my financial decision making. So, what are some lessons that you learned in overcoming these emotions?
What helped me was talking openly about my money. Like, there is nothing bad that has come from me admitting that I am in debt, admitting that I need help, um, and getting comfortable with saying I don't know what I'm talking about and I don't understand my money. I think that that was the first step, right? Talking to people about money is so important. You have to identify your own values, your own beliefs about money, and then you are able to identify some of the triggers that cause you to overspend or that cause you to underspend as well, because some people have saved up a lot of money and don't know what to do with it. It's just sitting there. That is also trauma showing up, right? And to dig deeper and dig further into why you are the way you are when it comes to making financial decisions. And once you know that, it'll actually empower you. You'll be able to understand yourself a lot more. And then the financial education part is just the perfect piece to the puzzle, because you know more, so you'll do better. You understand your own triggers, you understand your emotions, and you understand your relationship with money, and you can manage your money a lot better, as well as like your mental health and overall health.
And I love that you mentioned that accountability piece, right? So, talking to people when you may notice a certain trend in your behaviors. So that's really great insight, Zandile. And I wanted to take a moment to remind our audience that if they'd like to learn more about how our minds deal with money, check out our webinar, How to Overcome Your Money Trauma, in the Learning Center. So now, Paulina, there's a distrust of financial institutions, and it is one of the factors that might discourage those in the Black community from investing. So, what are some examples of how this distrust can manifest?
I think the distrust of financial institutions within the Black community really kind of link back to not just banks, but like government and institutional policies that have kind of made it difficult for Black individuals, let's say, to qualify for a mortgage loan. I think that in the Black community, there is an overarching idea that these institutions and government who are not for us continue to not be for us, and therefore why should we invest in the institutions that create red tape for us, and why would they be for us, and why would they want our money to grow, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that there's feelings of like not feeling safe or being able to trust a financial institution, also due to racial profiling and prejudices that have happened. So a lot of those negative experiences and that trauma has been passed down from parents and grandparents into the Black community. And that's actually a lot of what's being taught. And so if you want the next generation to like elevate, you're gonna have to teach something else. And but also institutions are going to have to open themselves up to also learning how to interact with the Black community, also recognizing their own missteps in the past.
All right. So, Zandile, Paulina actually mentioned something that was very interesting and important as well, is that there's also a generational aspect to the institutional distrust. So, is this something you experienced growing up?
Generally speaking, in my culture, money is still very much a taboo topic. So it's going to be difficult for a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that I work with to just be honest with themselves about their financial situation. When Paulina was talking about it earlier as well, about how um, sometimes when it comes to the stock market, investing in the stock market, as a community, we tend to, prefer to say, oh, just invest in a house, something that you can see, right? Because when it comes to the stock market, it just seems like something that's not for us, something that we are not meant to understand. And so we have to do a lot of work to unlearn those things and be able to teach ourselves and teach the next generation that the stock market is definitely for us, right? And challenge some of these narratives that have been passed down.
So I completely understand that because I grew up with that mentality as well. I came to Canada as an immigrant, so I have a different experience where it was more about, instead of putting money down to invest, which was like 30 years down the line, how about you save money now and buy a house? So completely understand that experience. And I actually had a great conversation about the immigrant experience, and what it means to become an investor in Canada. And so for our viewers who may also be recent immigrants to Canada, I would recommend watching our webinar, My Investing Lessons for New Immigrants to Canada, with our guest speaker, Enoch Omololu. So, Paulina, what do you think would help make investing information more relatable? And where do you like to go to find that information?
I think it will be, again, more important to continue to see Black people with similar experiences making money by investing. Like when you see a Black person making money through investing, that is the equivalent to me of the house that Zandile is talking about. That's the real deal. You're seeing the outcome. It's happening for real. It's not just this mythical thing that's happening. You know somebody who's made money on the market. Okay, you're more likely to want to dive in there. So I think there's a few different YouTubers and folks on Instagram that I love watching their stuff. Sometimes you're coming with a particular vernacular, for example, that a language that I'm like, oh, okay, that makes, it's not as academic or financial, like it's just regular everyday language. So that makes me trust you more. You're coming with examples that are related to the, things that have happened to me or things that I think could happen to me if I invest, and I'm learning from your mistakes. Like just very real people. Like the other way I think is when we find community. So one of the ways that I really started getting into investing is by joining a bunch of like Black stock investor groups on Facebook or WhatsApp groups, and being able to talk with folks who are going through the journey with me. Maybe they've been on the journey for a little bit longer, and then I'm on the journey, and then somebody else comes in and I can support them. Like those things are important. Building those communities, because it gives legitimacy to the things through the vehicles that we want to invest our money in.
All right. So, what about you, Zandile? What are some of the trustworthy sources you consider in your own financial education?
Honestly, social media. I think there are a lot of influencers that are doing a great job. And of course, be mindful because some of the people obviously have to pay their own bills. So they might be doing like a lot of ads and stuff like that. So still do your own research. But I do think that like a lot of that information is free. So it's a good step in the right direction. And also, I think don't sleep on the library. I know it's like so like old school, but you can get a lot of personal finance books like in the library, and you can also request if the book is not available, you can request a book, because I found like when I started going to the library at first there were a lot of books by white authors, but now they really are making an effort to have books by racialized folks in the library. So um, consume content from places like banks, places like the government of Canada has very extensive personal finance information, even for newcomers. And there's a lot of like checklists and things that you can read through, at least to have an idea.
So now I'm curious, Paulina. What are some ways you try to make financial literacy more relatable that our viewers could consider in their own lives?
I have this really dope spreadsheet, and it's how to plan your trade. And at the last column, it's kind of I tell people, I'm like, put down something that you would have otherwise had to pay for out of your own pocket if you weren't making, if you weren't trading and making the money. So when they see, like, we do the exercise, and then they're like, oh, a profit of like $60 or whatever. What is that? I'm like, hey, that's my nails in, every 2 weeks. That's a phone bill or half of a phone bill or something like that. That's my kid's lunch money or, an allowance. So if you start to put, I start to put like really tangible things next to the profit, because when the profit is small, it doesn't seem like it's making an incremental difference in your life. But once you start to attach it to things you would have had to pay for with your, out of your own paycheck, it starts to become more real. And then you can work your way up to the larger kind of investment. So that's what I do for trading. And then we talk about, long-term investing and kind of how the compound interest will build, and like looking at those numbers. So the other thing I kind of like to do, my favorite one for Black moms, for Black moms is like something I do with my own kids, which is we talk about in how we invest my kids' is like birthday money and Christmas money and stuff. We invest it into a dividend. So that the dividend, it kind of spurs my children and encourages them to want to continue to invest their Christmas and birthday money into a dividend, so that the dividend stock, so that their allowance actually comes from the dividend. So the more you invest in it, the higher your allowance, and you get to control how much your allowance is by how much you invest. That way, they're not losing the original investment, and they're making money on the side, and so they like that. And then it's really cool because, they'll follow the stock, they'll follow whatever dividend stock they're invested in. Both my kids are very under 12, and they both have a stock app and they know their stock, which is pretty cool.
So, let's say a Black individual feels they're ready to start investing. What are some of the first steps that can help them get off on the right foot, Paulina?
So, what I teach in my course is I teach if you're ready to start investing, first just open an account. That's the first step because it's very scary sometimes. You're like, like just open the account. You don't even have to do anything with it. Just open the account, get over the hurdle. Then I will say, okay, if you're not ready to invest, just at least start putting money into the account, right? It's not going to go anywhere if you don't buy or sell anything. So at least start stacking up because that's what I did. And then when the opportunity came, I had money in there to buy stocks. So really getting folks to just take those first two steps are huge. And then what I usually do is get folks to kind of understand like the buying and selling process. And I will often give them tools. There are really cool tools that are out there on the internet, which I really love, that allow you to kind of invest paper money, like fake money. And so we'll go through the process, and then I'll say, okay, try it with this, virtual simulator. See how it starts to feel, right? So you want to give them an opportunity to kind of invest without investing their money while they're piling up their money. So now they have their account, their money is piling up. They're practicing on maybe on a simulator. They're starting to get the feel. I'll give them resources and links to other videos that they could watch and stuff like that. And then we'll go and say, okay, when you're ready, let's start. Let's make your first trade.
Now, for those in our audience looking to brush up on their financial literacy, a great place to start can be the Learning Center in Webroker. So, let's pause our conversation for a moment and show you what's inside. In Webroker, click on Learn. You'll be brought to the Learning Center, where investors have access to educational resources for all levels, from investors just getting started with investing to those looking for more advanced concepts. We'll start off by highlighting learning paths. This gives you a guided investing journey to progressively build your knowledge. You can start off by taking a quick quiz to identify the best path for yourself. Or, alternatively, you can explore the different paths on the page. Next are video lessons. Investors looking for a library of educational content can explore the individual videos. You can find videos ranging from a minute in length up to webinars that run for as long as an hour. Investors can also access video courses that have the lessons organized by investment topic. For more interactive learning, you can access our masterclass schedule for daily live interactive sessions hosted by instructors on a wide variety of topics. Here, you can learn more about your preferred topic as well as pose your questions to instructors and get those questions answered in real time. Simply click on a class, review the description, and register. Finally, for investors looking for a more structured form of live or on demand content, we have webinars, where we have conversations with industry experts on a wide range of investing topics. You can register for upcoming events, or you can catch up on past events. You also have the ability to filter by knowledge level or by investment topic, and this will help you narrow down the options presented to you. All right, so what about you, Zandile? What are some helpful steps you think someone could take in their investing journey?
I think for me, Paulina mentioned some really good ones and things that I have done and taught people as well. But I think before we get to the money, it's identifying your why. Why are you investing? It can really vary, but I think identifying that will really help you stick through the ups and downs. Because as we know, the investment journey is not linear. It can be a roller coaster. So you're going to need that kind of anchor to get you through the tough times and to get you to the good times. I think something else that I know I didn't do initially was not having an emergency fund. I think it that's when you kind of get into those times where you can face a financial challenge and you might take out money from your investment prematurely. And so I know for me, a big thing and a big part of financial wellness in general is having an emergency fund. And starting small is really the big thing. It doesn't matter how much you have, we can all invest. I started with $10. So please be encouraged by that. I'm sure somebody is out there thinking, what can I do with $10? You can actually start investing, right? So I think it's just also understanding the magic that is compounding. I think that is something that helped me to figure out that, oh, this investing really works. Investing is really a good way or the way to build wealth, because if I put my money in a savings account, it is not going to grow at a fast rate, right? So understanding that compounding will help you build wealth is probably something else that I would um, suggest you learn what compounding is. Sometimes when you see what can happen, seeing really is believing. Like you'll actually be more motivated to start your investment journey.
Right. And you mentioned compounding. So the power of compound interest can be very powerful over time, which means that every little bit of saving can end up meaning a lot. So, Zandile, for those who are building new habits, it isn't necessarily easy, and they can be ups and downs that might discourage some new investors. So, what do you do to help manage your emotions through that learning curve?
I think it's really important to be flexible and to be open, to, you know, understand that some months you might have to save less, you might have to invest less. If you're having a rough patch and you have other obligations, that's okay. You can still um, put that contribution up when the time is right. I think sometimes in personal finance, there's this approach where it's like all or nothing, and I don't really believe in that. I feel like we just need to be mindful of the times. Like people really are going through it, like struggling to feed their families. So the last thing that you want to do is be that person who's like, well, you should be investing. We know that. Like for the most part, we now know that this is what we need to be doing. But sometimes we have to make adjustments in order to benefit our current selves. Because what is the point of you doing all these things meanwhile your current self is suffering? You need to find that balance. So I think for me, it's been helpful to incorporate a discretionary spending, which I called my whatever I want fund. So every month, even if it's $100, $50, some months, like my birthday month, I might give myself a little bit more. But what that is I just spend money on whatever I feel like. If I go and spend it all in one go at Sephora, then that is what I chose to do with that money. But I think that that has helped to limit or curb any sort of like binge spending that might happen, and I've been able to enjoy my money now, as well as know that I'll be able to enjoy my money in the future that I'm investing.
What I love that you mentioned was rewarding yourself. Now, I know you mentioned a lot of great points as well, but I just stuck to that rewarding yourself because that's something that I do for me. So, and that looks different for every person, right? So, for me, my rewards are more of when I hit a certain milestone when it comes to my investing, and then I might take a trip,
Mm.
right? Or a reasonable purchase. And then for me, I set another milestone, and when I hit that, then I might, reward myself with something even bigger. But along the way, I'm still investing and I'm celebrating these milestones by rewarding myself. So I love that you mentioned that, because it doesn't have to be that I'm living for my future by investing. I can still enjoy that journey. So let's give you the last word, Paulina. What are some suggestions to keep a new investor motivated to continue through tough situations, such as a recession, for example?
I would say it's really important to kind of learn and engage with understanding market cycles. and how they work, and understanding their ebbs and flows. Because the more that you understand how the market works, the more trust you build in your own investing plan. You're not probably retiring for a little while longer. So like, don't get spooked about, what's happening with the market right now, because in the next 5 years, that market can look completely different, can cycle back up. And so keep an eye on your investments, so that nothing major kind of disrupts them. But like, don't obsess or get too worried about what's happening. The market always cycles up and down. And the more you understand that, and the more you understand how it's cycling up and down, the more control I feel folks will have around how they manage their money in the markets. So again, the more research, the more education you do on market cycles, might help to ease some of the fear around where your investments are in the current market. And then again, the more education and the more strategies you learn about how to invest in the current cycle of the market you're in, which right now we're in a bear market, the more confident you'll be in your trading and investing, because you'll understand what you need to do in this current atmosphere versus when you're in a different atmosphere, let's say a bull market.
All right. So we're going to leave our conversation there. And I want to thank you both so much for sharing your perspectives and your personal journeys on overcoming some of the challenges for Black investors. I'm sure you've given our viewers a lot to consider as they look to take the next step in their own financial lives. Any final words of encouragement that you'd like to share with our audience? We'll start off with Zandile.
I know I myself am confident that it's only going to get better from here with everything that we're doing and all the education that is available to us and accessible to us, and some of the work that folks are doing. It's really exciting. And I'm really happy to be here.
The generational wealth gap in the Black community is real, but also the answer to closing that wealth gap in the Black community is also real, and it starts with us. The more that we build our community, the more that we each one teach one as we learn things and pass it on to each other, the more that we kind of invest our money in new ways and kind of overcome some of our trauma and our healing, the more we're going to grow as a community. And I totally believe that we can make it totally possible. And the more we get together, the more we're going to build it faster and better.
All right. So thanks again for taking the time to chat with us. We really appreciate it. And for those in our audience, visit td.com/black business for more resources that can help you become a more confident investor. Plus, make sure to register for our upcoming live webinars and check out our library of on-demand content available in the Learning Center on Webroker and on our YouTube page. See you all next time.